Hello and welcome to Don't Spill the Milk with Cindy and Lynette. This is Cindy.
Hi, and that's Lynette.
Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about feeding cues. And so Cindy, I'd love for you to just start our conversation and just talk about what are some feeding cues that parents should know about?
Yeah, I think feeding cues are such an important thing for parents to be able to recognize. A lot of times people think that when their baby is crying, that they are communicating that they're hungry. And babies actually, long before they get to the stage of crying, give really subtle little cues that they're waking up and wanting to eat and starting to get hungry. And if we can teach parents how to recognize those, it often makes lives a lot easier, doesn't it?
Oh,
So,
definitely.
what we see is probably about 20 minutes before a baby would start crying, they start uh, licking their lips, maybe opening their eyes, maybe just their eyelids are, you can see their eyes kind of rolling behind their eyelids. They will turn and root and turn towards anything that touches them in their cheeks or their chin area. They'll just turn towards that. Um, and it doesn't have to be the breast or the chest either. It can be your hair or a shoulder if you're holding the baby up on your shoulder. It can be the sleeve of your jacket. It's quite cute actually, the way they'll just try to lick their blanket that they're wrapped in if it's anywhere near their face. Um, and they do that for a good while, and they slowly kind of ramp up the urgency over that 20 minutes if somebody misses those cues, right? One thing we know is it's a lot easier to help a baby learn how to latch on and feed effectively if we can catch them when they're calm, right? So I always talk about this with the parents that I work with, that if you can relate at all to being hangry, if you know that term hangry, where you're maybe a little unreasonable and you're just kind of grumpy, and babies get hangry sometimes too. So if we can catch them when they're just nibbly, then it's a lot easier to make the feeding go a little bit more effectively, right?
Yes. I
Yeah.
want to just share a little something funny. Back when I was working on the postpartum unit, there was one baby I remember, and us nurses were taking care of the babies. This was back when we had a nursery, and we cared for the babies ourselves while the moms slept. And there was this one baby, and she was just doing this chicken bob and just like this and kind of licking, and we wrapped them in, we called flannel blankets, and they're like licking the flannel. Oh, she must be hungry, so we brought her back out.
Yeah.
But
It's quite
chicken bobbing.
Yeah, it's so cute when they do that, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same. They all do it, or most of them do it. Yeah, especially our full term healthy newborns. They have fairly predictable feeding cues. So,
Yeah.
yeah. What about those outlier babies, though, Lynette? What about those ones that maybe give much, much more subtle cues, or it's harder to recognize, or
Yeah.
maybe none?
Well, there are the outlier babies who often don't show the same kind of signals. So there can be polar opposites. There can be the one end where the baby wakes up from a sleep and goes from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye, and all of a sudden that baby is frantic and wanting to feed, and it's feed me now, you know. And there's just no cues all of a sudden, and sometimes they even wake from a dead sleep screaming. And
Their eyes
so,
are even open. They're screaming, right?
yes,
Yeah, I've met some of those babies.
yeah. And then there's the other end of the pendulum where babies are so sleepy, they just don't have the energy to wake up and show that they're hungry, and they'll just sleep and sleep and sleep. Even if they are hungry, they may not have the energy to show those feeding cues.
Yeah.
So if we have babies, these outliers who are demonstrating these behaviors, those are the ones definitely where I would say time to call the IBCLC, or
Mhm.
at least get someone onto your team, where you can get that latch looked at, and do a little bit of investigation to see why it's happening.
Absolutely, yeah. Sometimes those babies are the slower gaining babies.
Mm,
They just don't stay on their curve, and some of them just aren't. They don't demand. We always talk about supply and demand, but some babies just don't fit the demand uh,
yep.
thing that they're supposed to do, right? And we think, oh, I just have a nice content baby, but then we discover that those babies maybe should be demanding a little bit anyway some of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great time to call the IBCLC or get your practitioner in to help assess and see what's going on with that baby.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, join us for our next episode. We'll see you then.
We'll see ya.